well, I can talk about algorithms, but I don't really know about a commercial offering or even not overly familiar with open source frameworks. Google has, I believe it's Tesseract, but that would really be about it. Most of the AI stuff that I'm familiar with is fairly old school, so things like AML and I mean even ELIZA. As far as passing the Turing test kind of thing goes. So I don't know. There isn't really anybody that says, oh, Microsoft should buy them tomorrow. That would be great. I don't know who that would be.
No problem. So all these hot topics we just talked about, we know you could learn about them from a variety of different sources, some online, some offline. So where do you learn the majority of information on new topics around cloud computing?
Online, the AWS blog is very good. My newsfeed is all things, so we look at these things online. I used to learn about these things from books, but that seems to have gone the way of the dinosaurs, unfortunately. So that typically is where. Oftentimes through the keynote presentations are very useful in keeping up to date on the new hotness that's happening. So I'll watch reInvent. Yeah, keynote presentations I'll watch the reInvent stuff. I'll watch the build conferences. I'll watch some of those things.
Is that I'm not familiar. Is that a company who puts out presentations, an organization, or? No,
it's usually the cloud provider, right? So reInvent is the AWS conference, and build is done by Microsoft, the PDCs and all of that kind of stuff. I'm unfamiliar with a conference for Google, the Google's cloud. Maybe that's why I don't know about them as well.
So between AWS and Azure, those keynote speakers, which does it best?
Oh, AWS, I think. Not so much. Well, the keynotes are keynotes. I mean, they're I don't know. I mean, ever since Steve Jobs passed, I don't think that there's been somebody that even came close to something like that from theater and all of that. But the reInvent videos, so you get the keynote, so you get kind of the high points, and then almost immediately following are talks about these particular features that are more in depth. Such a thing exists too on the PDC, but they don't seem to follow as quickly after each other. It's almost like reInvent is they have everything already planned out and ready to go and ready for your consumption, and PDC doesn't seem to follow that same pattern. They'll announce new features and they'll have more in-depth discussions, but they seem kind of half-baked, at least to me.
Okay. And what kind of topics do you hear about during these keynote speakers? Can you just name a couple of recent ones?
Oh, sure, right. So and not just with the cloud provider stuff, right, but just software engineering in general, right? So you've got, DevOps and how the deployment pipelines will work or can be improved or could be faster. Containerization. I watched the last talk I watched about was about new features in C# 7, and that was a very good talk. And oftentimes I'll watch, or when I go to conferences, I'll attend things on work-life balance and that kind of stuff, kind of separate from the technology bits. They're also important.
Okay. Any other learning sources that you use to get new information aside from what we just talked about?
No. I mean, there's a group of guys I go out and have beers with. That's always a good source of information.
Fair enough.
No, that's about it. So other than my own network of people that I know, occasional user group visit, and if a topic is interesting, it pretty much is the rest of it is all blogs and watching some of the main talks online.
Are there any blogs you could recommend?
Oh, sure, yeah. I have read Allende